This is your one chance. Take the Lord Marshal's offer and bow.
I bow to no man.
Hey guys, so Universal spent over $150 million on the Chronicles of Riddick, just to then call the entire franchise commercially toxic. It's the most ambitious failure in the Riddick saga, and to understand how they broke this so badly, we need to know what they broke in the first place. So, the first movie, Pitch Black, that was released in 2000, it had a budget of $23 million, that was it, and somehow it looked meaner than movies costing 10 times that much. So the pitch was simple: a crashed ship, 3 suns that never set, 1 rare eclipse, and monsters that only hunt in the darkness. The planet itself was the enemy. But the real engine of that movie was Riddick himself. He's not a hero, right? He's a violent convict who escaped from places like Slum City and Butcher Bay. And for the entire runtime, you have no idea if he's going to save the people he's with or feed them to the monsters himself. That tension was the whole movie. And then of course there's those eyes. In Pitch Black, Riddick explained it himself. He tells the kid Jack he found a prison doctor and paid him 20 mental cools to cut his corneas and shine them up. Black market surgery, it's practical, it's criminal, and it's perfect for his character. And he also then mentioned that he was trash colony fodder. His mom supposedly left him in a liquor store dumpster with his umbilical cord still around his neck. He was a company ranger later on in his life on Sigma 3, sweeping tunnels for things called Spitfires until he ratted out the company for corruption and then in turn got buried in deep storage. So there was no destiny, no prophecy, no chosen one nonsense. He wasn't Neo from the Matrix. He was a self-made predator who chose to become a monster to survive a universe that was way worse than he was. Now pair that with Vin Diesel's performance. Barely any dialogue, all posture and a gravel voice, and you understand why audiences fell in love with him. He wasn't a space hero, he was dangerous and he felt real. And then Universal Studio got greedy. Ambitious. They got ambitious. They got a bit way too ambitious with Chronicles of Riddick that was released in 2004. They didn't want a Pitch Black 2. They wanted their own Star Wars universe, their own Lord of the Rings franchise, So the budget exploded from $23 million to somewhere between $105 and $150 million, more than 4 times the original budget. Oh, and to make that money back, they had to reach everybody. So they sent it down from an R rating to a PG-13 family movie. Now you understand the problem, right? Fans walked in expecting a tight horror sequel, and instead they got hit with a wall of mythology, ancient prophecies, elemental seers, planetary politics, and the necromonger death cult that nobody actually wanted or asked for in the first place. Now it made about $115 million worldwide. That sounds amazing, but unfortunately that didn't even cover marketing. So Universal looked at the numbers, they looked at the audience reaction, and they called the whole property commercially toxic. So no sequels, they were just done. But here's where it gets worse. In the story, you remember that mental cool surgery? Yeah, apparently that was also a lie, because the Chronicle of Riddick movie retcons the entire character. That eyeshine isn't surgery anymore, now it's a gift, a Furyan thing, awakened by some mysterious woman named Shira, or Shara, I can never remember her name. Because now, Riddick isn't just some guy anymore, he is a Super Saiyan. He is an Alpha Furyan, the last son of a mythic warrior race from a death world called Furya. Oh, and the dumpster memory that he had? That wasn't his mom trying to kill him, that was actually the necromonger Lord Marshal, going from planet to planet, strangling Furyan babies with their own umbilical cords, trying to stop a prophecy that a Furyan boy would be the end of him one day, just by the way. And now Riddick has superpowers. Also, not just night vision, he can throw a big blue rage nuke powered by the ghosts of his extinct race. Anyway, you see the problem, right? He went from a man who chose to become a monster to a space elf, or, space Jesus, with a birthright. So, hard science turned into magic, and the seers were translucent, and the Lord Marshal was stealing souls. The whole Riddick agency just disappeared overnight. So that Chosen One switch, combined with that watered-down PG-13 cut everybody hated, that's why the fanbase split in half. Look, the director's cut did come in and it was better, but the damage was already done. Here's the thing that proved that this wasn't all inevitable. The same year, 2004, they actually nailed Riddick in an animation that nobody's really talking about. The Chronicles of Riddick, Dark Fury. It was a 30-minute movie directed by Peter Chung, the guy who created Aeon Flux. It picks up literally minutes after Pitch Black ends. So it's Riddick, Jack and Imam in the spaceship, but they get snatched up by a merc ship, and yeah, then it all goes to hell in a handbag, basically. So fans liked it more than they liked the live action sequel, and it's obviously why. Dark Fury kept Riddick as a predator, not a galactic savior. Look, it was weird science, yes. yes. And over-the-top villains, again, yes. You know, they wanted to freeze him into a living statue for their collection. You know, weird stuff like that. But it was focused and it felt right. It was proof that the Chronicles story didn't have to fail, but the execution of that story, that let it down. So honestly, this franchise should have died in 2004. Look, Universal had moved on, they called it toxic, and they walked away completely. But it didn't die because one person refused to let it, and that was Vin Diesel himself. What he actually did, I don't know if you guys know this, but what he did was he did a Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift cameo, free of charge, no paycheck, nothing. In exchange, he negotiated full ownership of the Riddick character, which was given to him. So when no studios would touch Riddick 3, he funded it himself. Private loans, he mortgaged his house, the whole thing. His exact words were that if he didn't finish the film, he would be homeless at the end. Now that's not just commitment, that's kind of obsession. Anyway, the follow-up Riddick movie was released in 2013. Vin Diesel and the director stripped everything back. $38 million was the budget, and it was back to survival horror. One predator, one hostile planet, impossible odds. You know, there was no prophecy, no death cults, no blue rage nukes, nothing like that. Just Riddick alone in the dark, which was where he worked best. And it worked. It brought back $98 million worldwide. It was proof that this character survived when you stopped trying to make him the chosen one and just let him do what he does best. You know, be the predator and survive. But unfortunately, it has been messy since then. Because the latest movie has been a decade in development hell. Funding kept falling through, and Vin Diesel's Fast and Furious schedule was eating up the years. But the fandom kept it alive. Escape from Butcher Bay is still one of the best movie tie-in games ever made. And the trilogy blew up on Netflix recently again, ranking up to the top 10. And now it's actually happening again. Riddick Furya is reported to come out relatively soon. The principal photography actually kicked off in August 2024. So currently I don't have any news on the new one coming out. I am doing research. I am finding out everything because I would love to talk about the new one coming out. But yeah, I've got nothing yet. Anyway guys, if you like breakdowns like these, you know why franchises fail, how they come back, what went wrong and why, please subscribe to my channel and also like this video. And yo, what other franchises should I autopsy next? You know, drop it in the comments and have yourself a wonderful day.